what statement could define what I'm doing, or like whatever you're doing. Like I feel like everyone should sort of segment their life, and whatever phase they're in, give it a title. And when you give it a title, I think it just becomes a little bit more, I don't know, it seems like it will pass, but it's a story that you will live. So
But
yeah.
I'm a counter that. Like, I feel like once you give stuff a title, you kind of limit it because, for instance, on I heard Alan Watts say, when you like title a leaf, then you associate that with like the kind of, I think it's like a diamond shape. No, um, you kind of associate it with the shape and all of its properties, but then you don't see it beyond that.
Hmm. On a completely reversal kind of thing, I feel like so much happens to us in general. Like there's so much happening in general, relationships, sort of how what career am I gonna do? How am I gonna manage this finance? Who's gonna dry my socks? How am I gonna like do tomorrow's laundry? All of them are sort of, ambiguously without any sorting our experience, like without, when we just generally experience life overall, like just overall, the day to day, the grand future, the past, whatever, all of it just kind of happens to you at the same time, to be honest. And titling it is only, I think, a way to chunk it into a certain category where instead of, when you put a title, and as you say, as Alan Watts said, when you call something a leaf, you don't actually see the leaf. Like you don't actually see the thing that you're looking at. You're only looking at it to the perspective of the leaf. You can use that very same logic and make things more interesting. Like if I call this period of my life the departure, okay, now I have, as it were, an anchor of my experience, which is much better than unassorted, ambiguous reality where you don't know where you are. Like, you know what I'm saying? Where you have no clue where you are, what you're doing. It's all of it's happening at the same time. Doing laundry and figuring out finance for like a business you're doing is kind of put in the same box. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, without chunking and sorting, you're just experiencing fullness. You're not actually looking at anything.
It's kind of like there was like an example put to me of if you walk to campus every single day for 1 year, then you're gonna put that all together as that's what walking to campus is. But then if one day, kind of metaphorical, if you then one day you try to cycle to campus, then that sticks out and it breaks the categorization of this is what it's like and this is kind of it.
Mm. Yeah, I've got two things on that. One is like I agree with what Dion's saying. When you give something a, when you kind of, I think we do. There are seasons in life, isn't there? There's different times where we prioritize different things. There are times where we feel like we're being caught up in one aspect of our life as opposed to another, and things accelerate in their intensity. And sometimes it's calmer. But I do think sectioning things up and organizing it in a way you can understand, like it's like your life's a movie, like that emphasizes the narrative. You feel like the character. I mean, you feel like you're actually living. So this is the prologue, and then this is chapter one, and so on and so on and so on as time goes on. And on your point, Jake, about cycling versus walking, and then having that novel experience, I think life, the more new things you do, right, more new things you experience and discover, and the more different places you go, like it creates more memory. You're so right. It feels like it's not like life goes slower because maybe in that moment time is moving faster because you're having a good time. But when you do more new things and have new experiences and you feel a bit overwhelmed, right? You feel that imposter syndrome of like, should I really be here? Am I making the right choice? All of those moments when you look back is where like the sick storyline of your life is created. Do you know what I mean? Rather than like most people do the same thing for 40 years when they get qualified, you know? So, and then they probably live with like 10 memories they bring up and the same stories they tell when they meet people. It's like, yeah, like new experiences,
Well, well,
so much more to think about. Go on.
yep. I want to interrupt and point out a little fascinating thing I discovered while just listening to new people. See, I meet a lot of new people because of my job. My job as a trip captain, someone who helps people travel essentially. And one of the things that I learned while talking to people, while getting to know them, that they have revised stories. And I confess that I also provide the same revised stories. When someone gets to know me, I know exactly like, okay, this is plug in this story, plug in this story. And they're all revised. You've told them before. And I don't know, I feel like I don't know why, I personally feel like there's a sense of dishonesty sometimes in telling those stories again and again. Like what you call intimacy, what you call confession, what you call revelation is merely just revised. You see, like in a sense that it opposes the intent of saying these stories. I don't know. I like your point of saying the same stories of what has happened in my life. Yeah, I was at 16, I did this, at 18, I did this, at 20, I did this, and then the stories kind of fizzle out after that. That's generally reality. Yeah. But I like this thing. What do you all think about this whole, when you introduce yourself, the stories that you tell people? How does it go about? Do you think that you ever say like a story you've never said before, or are you guilty of, revised answers?
Well, this is interesting, right? Because we have our identity is built on a story, right? The story of our life as we can recollect it. When we meet people, we want to get across, right? What are the key chapters that then describe me? What am I doing now? What's happened to me that's key in the past? Where am I going in the future? All those things. But you're right. I feel like a lot of it is revised. I've got the same few lines about where I was, where I am, what I want to do. It's interesting, and maybe it's a good frame to think about. You want to tell someone a story that you've told before, but how can you tell it in a different way? Can you come at it from a different angle? Can you focus on a different aspect, like your emotions, or how it affected your beliefs, or what it was like through the eyes of your mum, or the setting, or the people you were around? And is there a different angle you can put on the same event to make it then more authentic and new to yourself, and actually then like consolidate and solidify that narrative in your own mind as well?
There's also like the danger of like the story being distorted because memory, and also I think when people retell stories, they might exaggerate certain parts from the feedback of the reaction. So that's a danger.
Yeah.
In part, all of our stories are a bit exaggerated at some points. I think that's an okay thing to be sort of guilty about, because if you were to tell a story, for example, hey, at least don't make it boring. Like that's the whole thing. Fine, introduce some layer of fantasy, some little bit of exaggeration. But I think that one danger is to get carried away with these kind of stories that you tell about yourself. You start to believe your own lies. That's a dangerous slope. But to infuse, as it were, a little bit of fiction, a little bit of exaggeration in a little areas, it doesn't hurt. Don't make it boring. Don't make your own stories boring in a way. But I think we're talking about, like, in a larger context, we're talking about how do we know ourselves? Not like the question of finding myself, but as it were, right now, presently, how do we accommodate the version of ourselves? Do we tell ourselves stories about who we are, or do we only tell other people's stories? Do you tell your own self, like, okay, this is what I've been through, this is where I'm going? Like, I don't know. This is like a sort of a throwing of a dice. Now, I don't. What do you all make of it?
Oh, we definitely live on the stories we tell ourselves, man. We live more in the stories we tell ourselves than the world. We extract stories about ourselves from the world, and then we live within those stories rather than the world itself. That's how it works. That's how you stay sane. Because the world's so complex, right? There's so much going on. There's so many people, there's so many things, so many events. You can't take it all in. So you have to like see it through a telescope, man. You see a microscopic fraction of the world. And what that microscopic fraction is the stories you tell yourself about what's important, about who you are, about what you should do. Because there are an unlimited amount of things you can do. There are an unlimited amount of things you can focus on. When you could become an expert at darts, or about praying mantises, or you can learn how to jet ski, or you could go and figure out how people make magnifying glasses or any random shit, right? But you've managed to single down to, this is what I care about and this is what I want to do. Like that's your life. That's your life. It's cutting from the wheat from the chaff. It's getting rid of all the bullshit and everything else going on, all the noise. That's what your brain's supposed to do. It filters reality down to a story that you can understand. And that's what your life is, you know?
An interesting opportunity can arise from this particular line of thought, which is how to make your life interesting. If we pursue this question with what we have been talking about so far, I think we find a very nice trick, a very nice method, a device to conduct yourself in reality. I was thinking about this the other day when I was driving to one place. I wasn't driving, someone was driving me, so I had the opportunity to actually just look at traffic and look around. And I was thinking, oh my God, but I know so much of this world. Like I know so much. No, I don't know so much. I actually know nothing about the world. My bad. That's what I thought. I know nothing about this world. I don't know who built these roads. I don't know how this vehicle functions. I don't know what that shop is selling. Like there's so many unknowns right in your bedroom, for example. Like there's so many things that have come. Do you know where your t-shirt is manufactured? Like if you just took an ordinary object in your house and just thought for a moment, where does this come from? Like, I'm just thinking, right? Like this bottle, where does this come from? I don't know. Okay, there's a name of a company written. Okay, then that means there was once somewhere, some guy thought, okay, hey, let's manufacture water bottles. Like, let's manufacture steel water bottles. There's like, even in the most domestic situation and the most mundane situations, there's stories trapped within objects, stories trapped within people, stories trapped within circumstances. And how probably to make your life interesting, my take would be to perhaps look at things and think, okay, well, what can I know about it? Like how much of the immediate world can I know about? And then things just talk to you. They're like, hey, I came from this. Did you know, interestingly, that this brand was made by, for example, a specially challenged person? Or like, I don't know, like, do you know what I'm saying? The limits are like limitless, and the stories that can be told would make the world around you very interesting. I want to know what you all think about that concept.
So really, it's just curiosity. That's how you make your life. That's how you make your life interesting. The search for curiosity.
Yeah, in a way, not to take the world given as it is, like you're just using things. Like, yeah, I'm just using my wireless earphones. Do I know how they work? Like when you build that familiarity with mundane things around you, I was thinking like, because I fanatically and restlessly keep traveling, and I actually made the choice not to this week. I was like, I'm not going to travel. I'm going to sit in my room, going to look around, and just think of where all these things come from that I don't know. Like, half the things I've collected, I don't know their story. And I thought maybe that's a better way to travel, just to sit in your room and investigate. Yeah.
You can travel in your room.
Yeah. 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 Let's address this question. It's I think people are generally fixated on problems, but not solution-oriented problems. I think we can talk about in like nice subjective ways how to make living life more interesting, or can we talk about that? Like in general, I feel like that's a good thing to talk about. Okay, what can I just ordinarily do? Yeah, it's not the whole morning routine and have this whole, like, I don't know, big thing, but also just subtly when you sit down when you're bored, how to have fun. Because I think we're kind of forgotten it now.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what I think it comes down to? I think it comes down to, where's the texture of your mind? Like, do you have peace of mind? Because I feel like, I think I heard once a while ago that happiness is just peace of mind in action. Like, if you have a good, stable mental state, your mind is smooth, it doesn't really matter what you do. You enjoy it. If it's sitting and meditating under a tree, if it's, eating and eating breakfast, or if it's going to see a friend, or if it's some work you need to do, or if it's some kind of exercise, or you're in a car, or you're on a train, or like if your mind is clear and you're there in that moment and there's nothing bugging you from 10 years ago and you're not stressed about next week, like every experience is pretty good. And I think I realized this now, that just if I keep myself just calm and focused on what the goals are, everything is great. And when you realize everything is great and you come into that and you step into that, then the tiniest things can bring you so much joy. Like eating a pastry in the car with great music on gives me so much joy. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else in that moment. Or like when I go to the sauna and I heat my body up to the point where I feel like I'm going to die, and then I have a cold shower, and then I sit after my cold shower for like 10 minutes and feel my heart rate pulsing, and I'm like, this is basically free. This is just my physiology. But I'm recognizing just how peaceful I am. And I think what that peace is when you don't want to be anywhere else. You know, you're not trying to escape your experience. Because as much shit like is hard, man, and we all face our own struggles, and it'll be easier to be somebody else. But the lives we get to live are only ours. We are the only ones that get to be ourselves. And that's a beautiful thing. No one else gets to do what I do. No one else gets to be where I am. No one else gets to have the thoughts I have, has the beliefs I have, and has the experiences I have. And that is interesting to me, because I know how people's stories in the past have gone. I can see people older than me and how their life stories have evolved, but mine, I don't know what's going to happen. I have no clue. I have a plan. I have goals. I have things I want to achieve. But like I get to do something that only I can do, and that's be me. And that is the definition of interesting, you know?
A complete unknown, it presents yourself, a complete adventure, a sort of like, you know, because no one has the exact, and this will happen, and it's been my experience that especially when you leave uni, when you leave university, you know, where you're surrounded by people of the same circumstance, like you wake up at the same time, you have to go get to class at the same time. I'm not sure how your uni is, but like in general, lives are very similar when you are young. But as soon as you go out into the real world, per se, your life starts to develop its specificity, its idiosyncrasy. And then in that point, when you realize, oh my God, nobody can have the circumstances I can, nobody can have the exact same specific experiences I have. And if you think how to use that, I think that would be, like you said, a great way to just have a good mindset. Be like, yeah, my life's a goddamn adventure. Like, yeah, this is not happening to anyone else. This is never going to repeat in history. There's never going to be another me here in this particular time period, in this particular part of the globe, with these particular circumstances. And it's just going to keep happening. You're just going to keep having more and more specific experiences. Yeah. Yeah.
I think what you want in life is an adventure, and it must be incredibly hard. I find it kind of hard now, like living very similar days, and if your perception isn't creating a positive out of that, then life isn't interesting. So I think Joel's right with the peace of mind. Peace of mind is what makes your life interesting, because it's kind of the foundation.
And like you have to understand that there is beauty and meaning and purpose in just mundane things, because all the grand things that you might want in the future that are coming for you, all the grand things that have happened in the past, could only happen through the constant iteration of basic shit. Like, did you get up in the morning and take that shit you need to take? Do you know what I mean? If you don't do that, you can't go out and do the day you wanted to do. You can't go out and achieve the things. Or, you know, on a more understandable level, like, did you show up to work? Whatever that work is for you, right? That could be knowledge work, or it could be going to your job, or it could be a training session, or it could be a difficult conversation you need to have. Those things happen every day. Every day you'll do a bit of work. You'll wake up, you'll eat, you'll get dressed, you'll clean yourself, you'll interact with people. And they might seem like, if you only zoom in on that one day, it seems all pointless. But actually, on the grand scheme of things, they're the small layers that build the like beautiful cake that is your life, right? Because you can't get to where you want to be in 10 years without this weird time that you're having now, right? Where things might seem the same. And it links back to what we said at the beginning, about how life has seasons and cycles. You know, things might be quite similar every day now, but that's a process for another stage in the future that will be different.
It comes to mind that reel of Dion showing like the beauty of a normal day in the street with your phone out walking through.
That was the whole genesis of this whole Instagram thing, where, you know, the message was so simple, like that most of your life is going to be filled with mundane days. There is no grand epic. There is not this great adventure. And I'll even go so far as to say, even if you achieve your goals, let's just say you have the money in the bank, you're having the experience. The real goal is, how can I experience my life better? Like, you know, what money gives you is the freedom to have experiences of that you desire. Like, you want a fancy washroom, you want a fancy car, but ultimately, what is it? It's the experience of your consciousness. Like, that's the real goal that you're achieving. Behind all these goals are this one. The experience of my life should be really nice, and that's available to you every day. And it'll not come in these grand days where you achieve. It will come in the days where you simply take a shit nicely in the morning, or you eat a good enough breakfast, or you just, you know, like, there is so much beauty in just the everyday. And this is what life is. 80% is gonna be these everyday days you're not going to remember, days that are just going to be lost. But these days, I think, if you can just open up to it and be like, this is the grand day. Like, I'll give you a situation. Okay, if I point a gun to your head, to your dead soul that's in hell, and I'm like, listen, you get to either, you get like, I'll just it's not even a request, it's like an order. Go live one day of your life. Okay, you get this one chance, you've been good, I don't know, you've done something, but you deserve, now you can just go back and live any day of your life. Wouldn't you take that opportunity very abruptly and be like, yeah, okay, any day, I don't even care, even if it's a mundane day, I will take it. Like, imagine that you no longer could experience any of your mundane days and you were dead. And then I told you, here's your chance, go back to a random day. I'll be like, go back to 2015, 27th March, and you'd be okay with that. You'd be happy. You'd be like, this one day is more than enough. Can you imagine if I took you the level of consciousness that you have right now within your head and dropped you back in 2016? Wouldn't you live that younger self's day very interestingly? Wouldn't you look at the people and have a much more higher understanding, and just the overall absurdity of the circumstance of what used to happen at that particular time? Like, you'll start to see the absurdity of it all when you think that, okay, what if I relive this day? Like, yeah, mundane is where the day happens. A day, as the saying goes, this is a very important saying. The days are long, but the decades are short. You don't experience your life in years. You don't experience your life in decades. You don't experience your life in hours. You experience your life, right? There is no decades. There's no such thing as experience in a decade. The day is where the day is where life is. Life is here in this mundane day. This is it. Like, there is no, I don't know. Yeah, I never think of these grand days in the future, honestly. Yeah.
That was nice.
Sorry though.
No, that was a good passage. That was great. Yeah, the time is always now. Time is always now. You know, whenever you're anywhere else, it's your mind. It's not where you are. You're always here. And all we own are those moments in time.
I want to provoke a little thing. So I want to provoke this whole notion of having goals. Like, can you describe the pros and cons of thinking about, okay, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this in the next 5 years? Like, I personally don't have that notion yet, and I'll tell you why later, but I want to know what you think.
Okay, well, shall I go first, Jacob? I feel like you were going to say something then. Go on.
I was just the thought that came to mind was your goals kind of give you direction and they kind of impact your trajectory. But then I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if you didn't have any goals? What would happen then?
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. I've been thinking a lot recently about goals and my goals and how actually goals interact, right? They're not singular entities. They combine and they conflict, and they don't always get along in your life. And I'll give you an example of that in a second, right? But I'll tell you, what I think of when I think of my goals. My goals are not like tick boxes that I will check off eventually. My goals are just visions of who I could be. Like, there's just a Joel in the future. And yes, he does a similar pattern of things. When I imagine him, he's an author, he's a speaker, he's financially independent, he has that peace of mind, most importantly. I mean, he's built a good life for himself and he's got a loving family and he feels connected to the people he loves. But I think you need a goal to create a system. Once you have a system, you don't really need the goal anymore. So let me put that in an example for you. So I want to be able to, I have this vision of me at 25. I'm living on the coast in Spain, and I'm in the process of writing a book, and I'm a professional athlete, right? Like, for me to get there, I have to be good enough at the sport to get paid for it. I have to be competent enough in life to live abroad on my own and not be a loner. And I have to be learning and growing and be able to articulate myself to the extent that I can write a book that people will find value in. So they're the goals. The goals create the lifestyle. But to get the goals, I need a system. So I need to be learning things. I need to be practicing my writing and my speaking. I need to be training consistently. I need to be improving. I need to be just becoming a better human through having experiences, becoming more competent at stuff, improving my social skills, all those kind of things. But then the other point I wanted to make was I was in the sauna the other day and I was thinking about how a lot of people hold multiple goals in their head that don't match. Okay. So everyone says that they want to be happy. And everyone also says that if they could choose to, they'd be rich, right? But I don't think those goals help one another whatsoever. Because what you'd have to do usually to be rich is a lot of things that don't necessarily make you happy. Okay, yes, there are people that do it and hit both of those boxes. But there are certain times where you're going to have to sacrifice happiness to do certain things to become rich. But there are also times where you'll have to sacrifice wealth in order to be in this moment. Because also any kind of big pursuit like trying to be wealthy involves sacrificing the present for the future. And sacrificing the present takes away a good degree of happiness. It doesn't have to, but it does in a lot of scenarios. But in the same way that I don't think our desire, so goals kind of stem from desires, right? But I don't think our desires necessarily are our own choosing. So I'll give you an example of that as well.
Yeah.
When I'm like in the gym, right, and I see a guy, the biggest guy in the gym, he's got big arms, big chest, big shoulders, and he's like bench pressing like 140 kilos, right? There's a part of me that goes, it'd be great to be able to bench press that weight. But I don't want to have that goal because I also have the goal of being the best basketball player I can be. And if I had to get big enough to bench press that kind of weight, then that would decrease my performance on the basketball court. So my 2 points are goals create systems and systems create your life. And that's what's important about them. But also you should be wary of what you make one of your goals as, because if it conflicts with something you want more, then you're just going to spread yourself too thin and end up wanting things that you don't even like, if you know what I mean.
Isn't there like a disadvantage of like, what if you don't hit those goals?
What, like the dissatisfaction of missing the target? 100%, but think it's not about hitting it anyway. It is about that system. I mean, obviously, you'd be disappointed if some sort of arbitrary material goal doesn't happen, but it's more about this is the lifestyle, isn't it? The day to day, like the event of like, did it happen or not, isn't as important. I don't think it's gonna hurt in the moment. Of course it will, but it's not about like the way I think about something you said to me a while ago, Jacob. That like in life you can lose a battle but still win the war. You can take on failures. Shit can go wrong, but that doesn't mean you've lost life. You know, the overall war is you versus you. It's you versus the parts of yourself that you want to eradicate and improve. And it's the best. It's easiest to look at in a sporting context, right? Like, you lose a game, it doesn't mean you're a loser. Like, that's just one battle. The war's still going. The war is your own development as a player and as a team. You know, it's like individual goals matter, but the meta goal is just experience and grow in yourself and in your relationships and contribute to the world. But all the little goals that you go for in that, they're just the stepping stones in a way on that overall journey. Like,
I like what you said, and I'm thinking about this whole perspective that you offered, okay, which is maybe it's not the goal, it's the system, right? Like, it's a system, basically, like what is happening around me? What am I doing? Like, on the way to the goal. In a way, the systems that occur on the way to the goal is what you highlighted. And I can't help but think, isn't that what we were talking about? Isn't that what we were saying when we say experience? What's the experience of my consciousness? What's the experience of my life at the moment? Because I was imagining when you were saying about the whole, football thing or all of these things or attainment of the certain lifestyle. It all seems to me that, okay, like all of this seems like, okay, it's not the title, it's not these things that you've achieved, but more so that the life that you're living and the experience that you're having of it is pleasant due to this circumstance that you want to be in. Like, being rich is a circumstance. Being in the Amalfi Coast in Italy is a circumstance. Being in a vehicle or in a sports car or traveling around wherever you go, perhaps let's just say Thailand, you're still desiring an experience. And the goal is just the means to arrive at that experience, is it not? But like how you said, the goal perhaps is just a way to develop a system. And in that system, you find pleasure. Like, on the end of the day, did it happen or not, is what you concluded with. Like, are we in agreement with that?
yeah, definitely.
What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, go on, Jake.
About this?
Yeah, I think I agree. I think if you don't have goals, you're aimless. I think there's plenty of people that are aimless. But
what's itching your brain? There's something that
I'm trying to the systems. So, Joel, can you repeat what you meant about like how the goal changed the system?
Yeah, so I think an easy way to explain it is with an example. So the goal is get this life that I visualize for 25-year-old Joel, right? The experience that he would get on a day-to-day basis. And to get there, I need to achieve certain things in my character. I have to have certain skills and characteristics. Okay. And to get those skills and those characteristics, I have to do certain things today. And that's the system. The system to become a better basketball player is to train today. The system to be a more competent human is to work today.
So like
System-
becoming the person that lives that lifestyle.
Yeah. And you have to have a system in place to actually, like, ideas don't make change. Actions based on ideas make change. So the goal is an idea. The system is actions. The system is the things that you can tick off when you wake up and it's like, right, I'm going to work from 9 till 11, then I'm going to go to the gym, then I'm going to go for a food shop, then I'm going to call my friend. Like, that's the system. That's the life.
So the question is, what actions do you want to take on a day to get to the goal?
Because that's actually under your control, what you do. You know, whether you achieve a goal necessarily isn't completely in your control, is it? Because there are other people interacting and there are forces outside of control, and you can get struck by lightning or whatever the hell you want to, whatever the hell you want to think about. But what I do today, like I wake up this morning and decide, am I going to look on my phone and doom scroll, or am I going to go and get up and get shit going? That's under my control, and that's the system.
What's the ultimate goal?
Is that a personal question or just a philosophical?
Philosophical.
Just enjoy the passing of time, man. Do you know what I mean?
See how simple all of it is in a way. Like when you asked in a philosophical way, what is the ultimate goal? The answers are very simple.
Just be.
It's such simple answers, which is what's scaring me. Like, okay, what am I? Am I overthinking all of this when all I want is to enjoy my time in a little bit of peace, knowing that I've done something, knowing that I'm doing something. Like in search for the ultimate goal, we arrive right where we are. Maybe that's how I would think about it. But the ultimate goal, yeah, maybe there is. I don't think there is an ultimate goal, to be honest.
Well, there's no right way to live your life.
Yeah, there is no right way to live your life. There is no way you should live your life either. I don't know. This is a very tricky subject to talk about, and my brain is kind of like running on overdrive.
There's a wrong way to live your life, because like I could overdose on heroin and end it early. That's surely a wrong way.
Yeah, that's interesting. There is a wrong way, but there is no right way.
But you have to have a wrong way to a right way.
Not necessarily. There are wrong ways, but there are infinite right ways.
You could boil the water at 200 degrees. You could boil the water with sunlight. You could boil the water on an electric stove. You could make fire and boil it. There are many methods by which you can arrive at a certain experience. But there is only one way to not boil it, which is to not light any fire, not to heat it up. I think would that work as an analogy? Like, that's a very simple analogy, but in the sense that if I don't start any fire, the water is not boiling. But doesn't matter where I start the fire from what source. If it boils the water, it boils the water. Like, it boils. If I put, like there are many methods, which is what we can think of as the right ways. Yeah, there are infinite. I have no clue why there are umbrellas being, but like not umbrellas, balloons, right? And just floated like. I have no clue why that. Like the ghost invading the whole podcast. But yeah. Sorry, but
No, keep going. That was great.
yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. The digital invasion aside. Yeah, now that I think when you said there are infinite right ways to do something, but there's only one.
What do all these
ways to?
What do all these right ways have in common?
Good question.
Can we not use the word right way? Maybe that's not it. Maybe it's maybe like how it's the right method. Maybe that's a better way to say it than the right way. Right way. I don't know. When someone says right and wrong, there's too much connotation with morality for me to tolerate that sentence.
It's too
Like, right? Yeah.
subjective as well.
But what is the commonality in all the good? What are the good things? What are fundamentally good ways to live your life? Like, yeah, that's a really good question. In all these methods, what is the actual elements that make it like the right way? A good method to live your life.
Maybe maybe a way to frame it is like, if you think about the net effect you have on the world being, in my head, the story of your life. So how the people you love and the people you interact with, like, what's your net effect on them? Because there are times you're going to hurt people, sometimes unintentionally, but you can also do good. And is that net effect, like, are you in the positive? I mean, like, is your existence giving the world an overall gain? That's a good way to live your life.
It's like a lot of people say is leave the world in a more positive place than it was when you.
Then you found it.
Yeah.
I think that's nice because it's simple, Amy. It also means you can make mistakes as long as you learn from them, and then like you can alchemize them to create positivity from it that you then put out into the world.
You don't have to do much. Like, it shouldn't be too hard to leave the world in a more positive place.
No.
Just
simple.
Don't fuck up and hurt people.
But it's only hurt people that hurt people, Jacob. You know, sometimes you can't control when you're hurt.
But for them, sometimes that's their positive.
Yeah.
They're leaving the world in a more positive.
That's how they make themselves feel better. But does it have a net positive effect on the world? You know what I mean? Like, if you kill my mum and then I kill you, that's all net negative. You know what I mean? That's why you got to turn the other cheek, mate. Jesus was a smart guy.
But we always got to be in war. So it's not even really possible to live in the perfect.
Why have we always got to be in war? Who are we in war with?
Well, yeah, but like if there's no conflict, then there's nothing to do.
Expand on that.
Yeah.
We need problems to fix. Otherwise, as Dostoevsky said, if we lived in a perfect world, the first thing we need to do is smash stuff up so we can see some imperfection.
Agree. I do agree. But can we have problems without war? Like, war to me means injustice, innocent people dying. I think there are good problems and bad problems. You know what I mean? Like, a good problem is, how do I make people happy? A bad problem is, how do I kill this race? You know what I mean? And some humans want to solve bad problems. You know what I mean? Whereas I want to solve good problems. How do I make people happier? Like, why don't we solve the problem that there are still people that don't eat, like, can't eat every day? That's a good problem to solve, rather than the problem that this one group of people believes in a different type of God from my group of people. They've taken our bit of land or whatever.
Right. Surely, okay. So if we're going for, you got to leave the world in a more positive place, then surely by doing that is by solving the biggest problem.
That would have a positive impact, yeah.
And have the most positive impact.
But you can solve small good problems.
But surely you'd want to solve the most impactful problem.
Ideally, Jacob, but some people aren't built for that. Do you know what I mean? The woman who served me in Boots today when I bought a comb and a meal deal, she's not solving the biggest problems in the world, mate. But she's worked at the checkout and she's meant that I had lunch. Like, she's had a positive impact on my life. Do you know what I mean? But she's not a hero. Well, she is a hero in a small way. Like, she allowed me to eat my sandwich, which is heroic. But she's not, like, you know, saving thousands of lives. So there are levels, but you know what I'm saying. But I also know what you're saying. There are certain people that will want to solve the biggest problem they can solve, but there are also people that just want to exist and not get in the way too much.
But that woman at Boots is helping the company as a collective, which is then solving a massive problem.
But there you go, mate. Bees got to make honey, do you know what I mean? But if one bee can't make honey, or, you know what I mean? That's how it works.
And then the answer is to contribute to society.
Yeah, society, or just the story of your life. I think it's a nicer way of thinking about it, because I don't like society, that word. It has negative connotations to me, do you know what I mean? Of like control and like deciding what you can and can't do.
But then should you serve society or should you serve yourself?
But you are your own little society, mate. You and the people you love and the people you care about, that is your story of your life.
So maybe there's positive impact from them.
So that woman who served me in Boots, she is a part of my story. You know, she's contributed to the Joel Clifton arc. And in a small way, I've contributed to her arc as well, because I said hello to her. And she didn't ID me as well. She thought I was over 18. Well, I am over 18, but like, she didn't ID me. So I respected that from her.
Dion, thoughts?
I like that you both are having this very, from my perspective, what seems like two different directions for the same problem. Like when you said, shouldn't we solve the most impactful problem? And when Joel said the most of the impactful problem is there right now in your immediate life, and I would tend to think that I would never go to solve a grand problem level. I'll go to solve problems that I see around me. And I think that's good enough contribution to the world. Weirdly, it is neatening our own little worlds around us, helping out the people immediately around us in our local perspective, in our local point of view. That is really the world as far as we're concerned. You know, we think our mere awareness of the whole world around us and what it's suffering through constitutes that we are somehow virtuous. I think it's very unlikely. I think our world stretches only insofar as, like, think about it. There are parts of your world that start to sort of like, in a GTA map, kind of like you don't know what's there. Like the programmers haven't done it yet. That's kind of the world we are living. Like, our immediate surrounding, our endemic, natural, just basic right here. When I solve these things, somehow then I can like maybe think about solving someone else's problem. Like, Osho, if you all know about it, has this very saying like, be selfish, be absolutely selfish. Do it very diametrically opposite to what everyone's telling you, which is be altruistic. Because in your selfishness and admitting, how there's this whole debate, by the way, that even if I do something nice, I'm doing it maybe for a selfish reason. Like, it always comes down, avoid this whole trying to say like, no, I'm really doing it for other people. No, be absolutely selfish. And you realize that when you become selfish, you care about the experience you're having, which means that you also care about the people around you and what their experience. Because honestly, if you're walking around and you're a pain in the ass for everyone around you, bad shit's gonna happen. And when you think, okay, I care about this experience being nice, which means that even I want you to be pleasant at the moment. Like, I desire it, at least. If not anything else, I'd make the nest and I'll make the environment of the nest good enough for you to have that good experience. Like, when you're selfish to your own, to what's happening around you, you tend to actually solve the world's problem in this very small, subtle way. Like, you add a drop, you add like a little chip onto the brighter side, the more correct way, or the way that's non-destructive, perhaps. Yeah.
And also, it's the whole thing. Those people that you affect will affect other people, and so you actually are changing the world. I've got a good question for you, Joel. Okay, so you kind of described yourself in the past as a people pleaser.
Mhm.
But as you've kind of moved towards focusing a lot on yourself, um, have you seen like a difference in the people around you in their kind of happiness by not being a people pleaser, or has it kind of been the same?
A great question.
Yeah.
It has led me to strengthen certain friendships and weaken others. It's like a funnel or a filter. It's like I'm evolving, and if you're not going with me, you're not going with me. But if you are, our connection becomes stronger. And it's not like I've hurt anyone. It's more like I've given less of myself to people who aren't evolving with me. So if you're not on the mission, if you're not part of this stage of my story, you don't get my time and energy. If you are, you get better, Joel. You get more energy. You get more enthusiasm because you're going with me. Does that make sense? It's like instead of spreading myself out too thin and trying to please everyone, it's choosing that those I want to please are the ones that want the best for me. Because that's what I mean when I say someone's coming with me on the mission. They want the best for me in the good times and the bad times. I want the best for them in their good times and their bad times. And therefore we have a stronger connection. But if you aren't on that page, I'm not there to please you because you're not in my inner circle. I'll be nice, I'll be civil, I'll be polite, but you don't get the highest quality Joel because you're not with me.
It's a good kind of way to put it, spreading yourself thin between loads of different people.
Yeah.
Because it's then there's more quantity, doesn't matter as much.
No, it doesn't, bro. You know that we've talked about it before, but that clip of Joey Diaz where he's like, I decided when I was going to be friends, I was really going to be friends with somebody. He said, that means you don't need loads of friends. You need 3 motherfuckers and you can take on a country. And I like that a lot. You know, you need a couple people that you know in a crisis you could ring up and go, this has happened. What do I do? You know, and they might not have answers, but they'll have guidance.
We'll sat here like philosophers, like.
No, but I like this because we in this conversation there is an awkwardness. We can give the space to think. You know what I mean?
But these are ideas that they need a lot of thought. Because like on paper, you shouldn't really like. Surely the most impact would be to the most people.
I think if you have to play a role in order to please someone, you're going wrong. If I'm growing and changing, I have to be true to that in all contexts. Otherwise, I'm putting on a mask, right? And if someone doesn't want to go with me, someone doesn't like the change, and for me, it's a change that's positive and meaningful, then they don't get the time and energy. Go be with somebody else, because there are many people. You know, there are thousands of people you can make friends with. You know, and I'm not saying, you know, as I say, I emphasize you be polite, you be civil, you shake hands, you say hello, you make the small talk, you work along with them, and if you need to. But they aren't your brothers.
Then you like sacrifice making new friends.
Why would you say that?
If you probably would give that. I mean, I suppose if you're still being civil and nice to them, because it would just be harder to develop the friendship, surely.
I don't like the word nice, though.
Yeah.
I'll be civil, but not nice.
Do we all have maybe a dissatisfaction with being perceived as nice? I just want to ask, like,
Yeah. You don't like
Yeah.
you don't want to be a nice guy. You want to be a good man, and they're two very different things.
Yeah.
Nice is flimsy. You know what I mean, nice is like, oh, I baked you a pudding. Oh, you know, oh, don't worry about it. Oh, it's fine. No, that's not my mentality. If you fucked up, you fucked up, and I'm going to help you through it. But it's not okay. Being a good man is telling someone, yeah, you're fucked, but I know you can get out of it. Rather than saying, don't worry.
I think that's kind of respect, and I think respect holds relationships together.
Yeah, 100%. Like you, Jacob, right? If you come to me and you go, you're in some dire situation, and I say to you, don't worry about it. That's a nice thing to say, but it's not what you need, is it? You don't need that. You need me to go, shit, that's deep. But you know what, mate? I think you're strong enough to handle it. That's the difference. That's not nice. That's me saying to you, yeah, you are fucked. But you are capable of handling it because I know you. That's a better response. Do you get what I mean?
I don't. This is a very, this is a very good way to think about being nice that you just mentioned over there. Like in the sense that, okay, being nice sometimes is placating, right? It is lying. Like what you mentioned over there, if Jacob here is suffering with a certain problem, and if you go, yeah, mate, that's just, that's okay. And these sort of like, very placating answers, very like, you're basically lying, aren't you? Right? Like in the sense that being nice is kind of like lying. I mean, if we're talking about a very particular branch and breed of niceness. We're not talking about overall, what it is to be a nice human being. But we're talking about this very specific circumstance of interpersonal relationships wherein like how can we inform other people? What do we do with what they have told us? Like either you can lie to their face, in the attempt of maintaining peace, or you can tell truth. I think being nice and being respectful and even tying people pleasing together, even in my personal experience, I think the more I've tend to become honest about my subjective experience, I've also been perceived as a nicer person. I've also been perceived as a cruel person. Like I've also been perceived as someone who's not as nice. But that's just when I'm totally honest about my subjective experience and what I feel. Like that, like, is niceness and any way to combat such a thing, does it have something to do with truth? Like,
Yeah.
I think it does.
The truth isn't always nice.
No,
the truth is always right.
Yeah.
Lying and being nice is quite short term as well.
Yeah, it's sacrificing the discomfort in the moment.
Yeah, I know. Chips are broken down. I want to tell you a small little story now.
Go on.
With this guy. Yeah. Me and my flatmate, we've lived together for like 2 years now in the same apartment. And straight away, like a generic married couple, for some reason, we started like having this huge fight. We sat down for like 2 hours and just had this rigorous fight where you're not doing the dishes. No, I'm doing the dishes. No, like I working towards the upkeeping of this place, and you're simply not. You're just saying, there's a lot of accusations on both sides. And then we realized after all of that, what really was the issue was just basic things where in order to maintain peace, you just sort of let go of certain things, which is also a form of lying, I think. Ignoring. There is, I think Jordan Peterson has outlined this. That was the first time I heard this. Sin of omission. Like there's sin of commission where you do something. There is sin where you omit, where you don't do anything. And that is, missing the mark. That is where you went wrong. In your silence, you're lying. In your attempt at making peace, you're lying. Like we realized it's such a simple thing. Like at the end of the day, with this huge fight, we're like, oh, it's that, okay, when you want me to do something, I should do it completely. And what I've been thinking is that I'll do half of it and you'll do half of it. Just, you see how mundane and simple it is? These are basic things, small little basic principles that we never thought to discuss in the past 2 years. And it took like such a long fight to get down to such a simple disagreement on just our modality of how we think about who should do the work and when. What I'm actually trying to say here is that when we avoid and we try in the name of peace to not say the truth in the attempt to be nice, we're actually causing very long-term harm. I think we're doing that. I think it's been my experience that if I've tried to maintain peace, even though I was not okay with something, and I'm like, you know what, I'll let it go. It's always become a much bigger thing later on. It's always become a much.
Yeah.
Was that a story that you rehearsed, or was that a story that came out?
Right now, yeah. Thank you for
That's good. That's good. Yeah. No, I like that. Eventually the bubble will burst, Peace now doesn't necessarily mean peace forever. What you brush under the carpet eventually becomes a dragon that will eventually run away with your home. Anyway, time is running finite, but Dion, I want to ask you one last question before we depart for this evening. And that is, what are you looking forward to, man? And you can interpret that any way you like. You can look short-term, long-term. You can look literal and concrete in the things you're doing. You can think philosophically. But what are you looking forward to?
I generally can't see my life beyond 2 days. I generally cannot see my life beyond 2 days. But no, I think more and more I'm getting a bit of clarity on what I want to do. And it's not ambition. It's maybe something I feel like I have to do. I have one of two things that I'm looking forward to. Of course, I'm going to France. I'm going to, wear a baguette and smoke a croissant and just live in France over there for 2 years, and I'm looking forward for a lot, sort of living in Europe as opposed to India. But other than that, what I'm really looking forward is to come back here, because I feel like there's a lot of opportunity that's going to come. And what I want to do is I want to open up places. I want to open up places where people can. It's my love for places and architecture and empathy. I want to open up places where people can it's like a cafe, I guess. But what's really the idea of it is that people come in there and they don't feel like, okay, I need to be this very neat and tidy self, but I can just sort of relax in this place very beautifully. I imagine instead of chairs, mattresses on the floor, you get to sort of sit down casually. This is how we do it here in India. And I think this is what I want to sort of export. Perhaps I want to start it in France or something like that. But this is what I'm looking forward to. I think I really want to start places that are more humane, places where you feel like outside your home that you can belong to. And particularly in India, you don't have a lot of those, and that's what I'm looking forward to. Another thing I'm looking forward to is perhaps alternatively, starting a marketing firm where you're selling the real thing. Like if you're opening up, for example, a business and you're selling, let's just say, flowers. You're not selling flowers. You're selling, okay, what you're really selling is a token of love. What you're really selling is, a lad trying to just sort of impress. I mean, I'm just using flowers as an example, but you get my point. We are not purchasing things. We are purchasing what's below it. And I want to start sort of a firm where you sort of go to a company and sort of realize, listen, you're not just selling a trip, or you're not just selling flowers. You're selling this. This is what you're really selling to a person. This is what they really buy. I'm buying from you an expression of love. I'm buying from you an escape. And with that awareness, reverse the entire order of how the brand is communicated. That's just my ambition and plan. And this is what I'm looking forward to. I've skipped America, I've skipped France. I want to come back here as soon as possible and see what I can do for myself and the people around me, the people that surround me and people that are living here. that's what I plan to do. That's what I'm actually looking forward to. Yeah.
Very nice, man. Very nice. It was a good way to close off. But thank you for giving us your time. It's been nice.
Thank you for both of you having these, I think, impromptu discussions on what's right and what's wrong. What is goals? I think I have personally learned so much in this that I need to think about, especially the systems idea, especially the fact I think we sort of stumbled on this. The truth perhaps is the only way to prevent being a nice guy. These could be conversations that we can have later on. But I think, yeah, these are things that I'm going to take away and sort of think about. Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you for having me again.
Good luck on your trip. Yeah, it's kind of like conversations like these, like really make you question everything.
Yeah, there was so many of silence, no, like in this particular
Yeah,
conversation having, which is good. I like that. I was like, yeah, like I need, like, it's taking that little time to digest whatever was being said. Yeah.
and all right, man. Well, yeah. Well, when you going to France? A couple of weeks.
No, I'm going to the US first. Going to be there for like a month. Going to come back here and then sort of prepare my visas and stuff, and then head to France by September. So that's the plan.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, doing the best. Did go.
Best. Like, how do we end it? I feel like we should say something. You should say something very absurd, and I think that's how you should. Like a very gross, but cool statement. Putting him on the spot. I like it.
Yeah,
Easy thinking.
I'm interested now. We're just gonna hold this silence till Jacob does something.
Say a statement by which, if we ever talk again, we'll start the conversation from right.
Yeah, just
Like that's how you should end.
let him cook. Let's hold this silence and let him cook.
I've got a good quote, but
Go on.
it's not absurd. Now I am nimble. Now I fly. Now I see myself under myself. Now a god dances within me.